Hi everyone. So today I'm going to show you how I make marinara for canning. I take the tomatoes that we just picked a couple days ago and we're going to make them into marinara sauce. You can also use other seasonings to make other different types of sauces. But I'm going to show you how I do it. I like to do it in a crock pot so that way I'm not sitting there at the stove babysitting it for hours, and then I've had a couple times where it actually burnt and the whole batch was ruined because it was scorched. So come along with me and I'll show you how we do this. So today we are preserving some of our tomatoes that we picked out of the garden. What I like to do is use a crock pot. I know that's kind of different. A lot of people use a pot, but for some reason, pots on my stove, they'll burn the sauce because I like to do other stuff. It has to cook for a while. So if I'm cooking it in a crock pot, I don't have to worry about it burning. And I don't care how far it gets cooked down because when I use it, I always add tomato paste or tomato powder, depending on what I have. But I just take the tomatoes and I take the core out and save that for the chickens and cut them in half. The cherry tomatoes I slice and put on the dehydrator and use those for tomato powder. So, let me tell you, a crock pot holds a lot of tomatoes, and I could have 3-4 crock pots. We have a lot of crock pots, and we could have several of them going at the same time. I could have it all ready to go and head to work and come back and they're all ready to can up. So it's a time saver for me. Look at that, isn't that a beautiful one? All right. The pineapples and there's some other ones that I have, like the green giant. I like to use those for like BLTs and stuff like that, slice up for slicing tomatoes. So if you have any cracks in a tomato, I just cut them out. Any, bad stuff, just cut it out. Just like that. And after it's cooked down a little bit, we just take an immersion blender and immersion it down to pretty much nothing, and then we can it up. It goes really quick. I can easily can up quarts and quarts. I mean, I do cases of this every summer. And then we have lots of marinara for the winter. We also do salsas and stewed tomatoes and different type of stuff. I don't mess with like ketchups and condiments. It's just, it has to cook too long and I don't like doing that. It's just too much work to me. So, but I can use, the powders a lot, but we use marinara more than anything because, like my son, he has 7 kids and, we're 4 growing families here, so that's just what we like to do with our marinara or our tomatoes. So, look at that one. Isn't that a pretty tomato? Nice and orange. It's beautiful. So I got a lot of these usually. We have one variety, I can't remember what it is. It's a German variety, and it comes in really early. But we ran out of seeds this year, so we didn't have any to put in. But they come in like May, really, really early, and she'll have 50, 60 tomatoes on one plant. And then they die off, and then we plant melons right behind them. So we always put them on the end of the bed. But we have to find those seeds again this year. I can't remember what variety it was. I'll remember. I'll tell you by the end of the video, so I'll remember what it is. Let's see here. But yeah, we had really good success with those. And then while we're waiting for the big steak tomatoes to come in, we're canning those up. Got a lot of orange ones this year. They did really well. I believe these are Dad Sunset. We really like those. They're good. But I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting these up in the crock pot, and you'll see how we do this. So, be right back. Yeah, we got the first batch in the crock pot. I'm gonna let this cook for a couple hours. This is really nice because you just pop in the crock pot, and when it's all nice and soft, you hit it with the immersion blender and get it ready for canning. Throw a little spices, whatever spices, if you want to make it Italian or Mexican or whatever you want to do with it. You just throw it all in there. Really simple and easy. You're not having to sit there and cook it to death to cook it down, because I don't really care how watery it is, because I'm going to add tomato powder to thicken it up. And here's some of the cherry tomatoes. I'm going to throw them on the dehydrator, and that's what I use for the tomato powder. So on the dehydrator it goes, and I still have one flat left, but the first flat is done. And while I'm dehydrating some tomatoes, I went ahead and threw some zucchini that I just got out of the garden. I had a couple of zucchini that I'm going to go ahead and dehydrate so I have them for this winter for soups and stews. And of course, my little vacuum, she's down here looking for something to eat. Hey Sparkles. Hey, what's the matter? Mom not dropping any food for you? Oh. Alright, so I'm going to get this on the dehydrator. Just wanted to show everyone how I grow my cucumbers. In the heat of the summer, they do really good if I just trellis them up over the top of tomatoes. See, tomatoes are like, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet tall. There's the brick wall. So they just grow right up the side. Then they hang down the center. Look at that little beauty. These are little sunrise bumblebees in there. Look at how many tomatoes we got. They're just crazy. This is a really sweet tomato. It is really, really good. They're just like candy. So just thought I'd show you that. And while the dehydrator's going, this is all basil. Just took this out of the garden. I'm going to use some for the marinara sauce and throw some on the dehydrator. Every year we grow our own basil for 4 families, so we always make sure and dehydrate a lot of basil. So I got a tray of this ready to go. And here we have some beautiful paprikas, some of which are already starting to dry on the vine, which is fine. But we dehydrate them and we make powders. So you use it for over the top of your eggs and cooking, whatever. And when you dehydrate, I just cut the tops off and dehydrate them. Then I can also save the seeds. So I love to save the seeds for the following year. And every year that you do that in your climate, it helps the plant acclimate to your area. So like here it's 115 in the summertime. I do like to cover my peppers with a shade cloth. They like the heat, but they don't like the sun shining down on them in the heat of the day. So I do cover them up so they don't get sunburned. And it seems to help them from getting all wilty. But I always wait till they're nice and ripe. I don't take them off green. And then I put them in the dehydrator, or else I let them dry in the vine and then I'll take them off. So I'll put these in the dehydrator. Well, our tomatoes have been cooking for a couple hours in the crock pot. And now we're going to put it in the immersion blender. Oops, get the cord out of there. Get out of the cord. Being stubborn. Pretty sauce. most of it down. I'm going to go ahead and add some onion powder, some garlic powder, and some Italian seasoning. And then I'm going to let it cook a little bit more. Be right back. I'm getting ready to can up my sauce. These are the different types of blends that you can use. You can use Italian spice blend, Mexican blend, or a Cajun blend when you're doing tomatoes. Either one of them would be wonderful. I usually just do an Italian spice, but I also do a Mexican blend sometimes because that's really good with like sausage and stuff like that. You always want to reference your canning book to know what your processing times are and what you're supposed to put in it. I'm doing quart-sized jars. I'm using bottled lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice, or you can use citric acid. There's that too. You're not required to use salt, but you can put salt in there. It has a 1/2 inch headspace, and your processing time for quarts is 45 minutes. For my altitude, I have to add 5 minutes, so my processing time will be 50 minutes. And this is the beautiful sauce. I just let it cook like maybe 15 minutes longer after I threw the immersion blender on it. I pretty much just wanted to get rid of all the foam because you don't want foam. If you don't want it chunky, you can always run it through a strainer. I mean, they have strainers for sauce, but we like ours chunky. We usually do like a marinara, or we do a meat sauce or something like that. So, you know, it doesn't really bother me having all that stuff in there because it just helps to give it more flavor and make it thicker. Alright, here we go. Let's start bottling up some sauce. So, isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful sauce. What's fun is it turns out all different colors depending on what tomatoes you use. You know, I might use green ones one time, red ones the next, orange or yellow, or you know, they come in all different colors. Get that out of there. Okay. So it is a 1/2 inch headspace. So I'm going to bring this up right at 1 inch. And then I'm going to add my lemon juice. I like to add it last because this is kind of cold from the fridge. And I don't want to shock anything and have it shatter my jar. Okay. So 2 tablespoons. And I will check my headspace. And it looks good. Stick on the next one. Oops, I forgot to wipe my lid. Throw that back in there. Always gotta wipe your rim. And it goes. Let's do the next one. Right now it's about 7:20 at night. I started this about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so to kind of give you an idea of how long it takes to do the cooking part. You can always cook this in a pan. That is just fine. It's just I don't like cooking it in a pan because I don't like to babysit it. And it always manages to burn on the bottom, and then the whole batch is ruined because it has a burnt taste. In the crock pot, you don't have any issues with burning. And it turns out really nice. Okay. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. you bring that up to the 1-inch mark, right where the neck is, and then add your tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, that will be perfect 1/2 inch. If you're doing pints, you will do 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and always use bottled lemon juice because the acidity is the same. Whereas with lemons, it could be different. It could be 2%, it could be 3%, it could be 5%. So you always want to use the bottled because it's consistent. I usually get about 5 jars out of 1 crock pot. And on busy weeks, I have 3 crock pots going at once, trying to keep up. Last year it got so bad I couldn't keep up. Even with the 3 crock pots, I had to whip out the big pan and 3 crock pots. We had so many tomatoes. We had over 350 plants in that, in 3 beds that were, they're about, let me see, I think they're about 30 or 40 feet long by 4 feet wide. But we do intense planting, square foot gardening. So there's a lot of plants in there. We did 3 beds last year. This year we only did a bed and a half. We cut it in half. So we don't have as many tomatoes, and then the heat hit early. So we didn't get as many tomatoes this year, but that's okay. We still have a lot from last year. Go ahead and jar the rest of this up. Get it in the canner and we'll see how many jars we get. So out of 1 batch of sauce that I had in the crock pot, I got 5 full quarts. And then I also have another 1/2 quart, but I will save that for tomorrow. I'll heat it back up when I'm doing the next batch, and then I'll have a full quart. So now I'm going to bring this up to a boil, cover it, and once it's come to a boil, I will boil it for 50 minutes. It is now 7:30 at night, so I'll be done. I'll have them out before 9 o'clock. But how's that? Organic tomato sauce. Pretty much for free. The only thing I had to pay for was some bottled lemon juice. There you go. Well, our sauce has been in the canner for 50 minutes. I let it sit for 5 minutes with the burner off so it can slowly cool down. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these out. Isn't she pretty? The next one. That one has come out. Don't be worried about that. You see it's kind of floating. No biggie. I'm going to stir it up. It'll be fine. Very normal. Alright. Get yours out of here. There we go. 5.5 jars of marinara. The other one's in the fridge. I'm going to add to tomorrow's batch. I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours to cool down, and make sure they've all sealed before I go to bed tonight. And I'll take the rings off and I'll stick them on the shelf. Just that easy. Well, our jars have sat for 24 hours, and now I take the rims off because that is how I store mine, without the rims on. And you make sure you clean off any debris. You don't want any debris on these jars because it'll attract bugs. So you got to make sure they're nice and clean, especially around the bottom of the lid. And make sure they're all sealed really good. And then just stick them on the shelf. And they will last a good 2-3 years. But they never last that long in my house because we go through it like crazy. So this is how I make marinara. Give it a try. It's really simple. And you can use all those tomatoes from your garden and not give them away to all your friends because you need to be stocking stuff on your shelves in this time of crisis. So give us a try. It's really easy. Have a great day.